case study number 1. So it is applying blockchain to your industry, but I was calling the wrong people. Might not be good. So here you go. Anthony Barker, moderator, president at Tempo. Sorry about that. Come here. Take a microphone right here. We have Alexis Berolatti, CEO at BCDiploma. The microphone is right here for you. Fabian Vogelsteller, founder at Lukso, and Ella Cullen, CMO at MineSpider. I'm going to give you the last microphone here, so everybody, and take a word or two. Here you go, guys.
Well, welcome to the panel of applying blockchain to your industry. So we have a great panel here, a very diverse panel. And I'll introduce each one of them. I'll first introduce myself. My name is Anthony Barker. I worked in banking in Canada for about 15 years and got interested in blockchain and Bitcoin, about 4 or 5 years ago. We started a company here in France called Tempo. It's a money transfer company. We have a little store near Gare du Nord in the 10e. And we're currently working on an ICO. And what do we do as a solution is very much what Pascal said in the last session. He said, blockchain is the easiest way to move money in history. So this is our business. It's a money transfer company. And we are licensed by ACPR here in France. And personally, I'm working with Stellar. I manage the Stellar Python repo. And I've worked on 2 or 3 of the Stellar enhancement protocols for KYC and basically layer 2 protocol. So let's start with, I'm going to go horizontally. Alexis works at BCDiploma. He's been working for more than 10 years, I believe, in the higher education and IT space. And he's COO at BCDiploma. And I'll let him introduce himself.
Hello, good morning, everybody. So I'm Alexis, Chief Operating at BCDiploma company. So basically, what is BCDiploma? BCDiploma is an application allowing schools to issue and certify degrees thanks to blockchain technology. In few words, schools will access BCDiploma through a web application. They will import degrees data to publish and to certify. We will take this data, we will encrypt very strongly this data and put private encrypted data on blockchain. We work on Ethereum blockchain. We will generate encryption keys allowing to decrypt degrees. And the most important is that we are going to generate a URL link. We will give this link to the schools who issued degrees. The school will provide the graduate with this link. And the graduate will put this link on his LinkedIn profile, on his CV. He will share this link with anybody who needs to check the authenticity of the degree. And by a single click on this link, a recruiter who wants to check the authenticity of the degree will access a web page on the school website presenting a nice designed degree, certified, with all the proofs necessary to guarantee the authenticity of the degree. So a quick state of play of the company. We are today a 9-person team. We created the project in 2017. We wrote the white paper past fall. We did a successful ICO this winter in January, February. Thanks to this ICO, we could develop the product. The product is live for 2 weeks now, so we are happy we can start to issue and certify our first customers' degrees. And
I understand you're working with one of the universities here in France?
Yes. Our first customers are French schools, so we work, for instance, with Université de Nantes. We work with many business schools, Institut Léonard de Vinci at La Défense, École des Ponts Business School, and other customers in France for the moment. We have a strong ambition to become the next worldwide standard in degrees certification. And to succeed in that huge ambition, we are starting a new fundraising round that will allow us to succeed in the international go-to-market.
Great, thank you. Next is Fabian Vogelsteller. I hope I said your last name correctly. He's very well known, one of the co-writers in the Ethereum community specifically, as being one of the co-writers of the ERC20 token, as well as, I believe it's ERC 725, is that correct? Yeah. Which is an ID, sort of KYC, know your client type of?
No, it's basically a public blockchain identity.
Okay,
standard.
identity. And he's working with he's doing a fashion type industry blockchain named Lukso, and I'll let him talk a little bit more about his solution.
Yeah. I'm originally coming from the Ethereum space, where I worked the last 3.5 years and built initially a lot of tools which got the industry going, which was the MIST browser, the first decentralized web browser, and the Ethereum wallet, and tools which developers use still today, which is Web3.js, which I worked on. ERC20, that's the standard which had a great impact in the blockchain space.
And how much, you said yesterday, how much money has been is in the ERC20 tokens right now in value?
I just a week ago or so I checked, and it's like 12 billion. I mean, I think 90% of those are ERC20 tokens, and some then are on Stellar and other platforms. Yeah, it created a huge industry, and we're in the crypto winter now, so that might be, low right now. Yeah, this was not really expected when I published this standard. I was not really expecting that this would create a whole industry.
And then just for the audience, the ERC20 token, as it's had such a big influence, can you explain it a little bit more, what it means and how it made things easier?
Yeah, so the ERC20 standard is basically an interface standard, which says if you want to make a token on the Ethereum blockchain, which is a smart contract, which just holds the account balances of who owns how much, and you follow that standard, which is basically just 6-7 functions, then you're compatible with almost every exchange, and you're compatible with almost every wallet out there. And because it was suddenly so easy for people to create their own tokens, we have seen the 2017 ICO bubble, basically.
Great. And then tell us a little bit about your new startup, Lukso.
Yeah, so I'm now helping building the Lukso blockchain, which is an industry-specific blockchain for the fashion and design industry. That is an ambitious project to jumpstart a digital economy around the fashion industry. So it's basically the base layer where future interaction will happen, customer engagement, product authentication, new ways of how you gamify the customer experience around fashion items, influencer networks, collectibles trading, so making fashion items basically become collectibles and being like clearly verifiable and tradable.
And how are you funding it? Are you doing an ICO, or is it private equity, VC?
Private equity. So we will make an ICO probably in Q1 2019. As we are making a blockchain, there's a base cryptocurrency involved, which secures the network. We will make an ICO probably in Q1 or Q2 2019. Yeah, that's part of to get a ecosystem going. It's not only for the funding, but it's also for getting participation from the public, right? To get people in the system. It's an industry-specific network, meaning that the biggest stake goes to industry players. A smaller stake goes to the public in order to get a broader participation, and everybody should benefit from this industry's networks.
Great, thank you. Then I'm going to move on to Ella Cullen. On the marketing aspect, she's Chief Marketing Officer for MineSpider, which is a blockchain protocol for actually mining, physical mining in a responsible and ecological manner. She's been working in marketing for many years for Siemens and Smava and other companies, and she's passionate about UX design and the crypto industry.
Thanks, Anthony. Yeah, so MineSpider is, as he mentioned, a blockchain protocol for tracking responsibly sourced minerals. What does that mean? Well, it means that we ensure that the gold in your jewelry or the cobalt in your car battery is actually not funding human rights abuses. So we track fungible commodities from mines that we can trust all the way along the supply chain. And I think the biggest industry issue that we have at the moment is that the ones that need the data are not the ones that are paying for it. So at one side you have manufacturers, and there's a lot of, like for instance, the EU Commission brought in conflict minerals regulation. So by 2021, all manufacturers will have to prove that their supply chain is clean. And at the moment, at the current state of affairs, this is very, very difficult to do. And the other end of the scale, we have mines. And now mines don't really have any incentives to go through the very expensive due diligence processes to actually become certified. So what we do is offer them a monetary incentive. So essentially, once they're certified and they have a certain amount of tonnage, they can actually sell this information as a data packet on our blockchain. So we're doing a lot of exciting things at the moment with our team, and we're looking forward to shaking up a old and billion-dollar
where
industry.
Are you based?
We're based in Berlin.
Berlin, and how big is the team currently?
8 people.
8 people, great.
Mostly developers.
Okay, so our first question, we're moving along on time, so the question is, how are you applying blockchain technology today to drive business value? And we'll start with you, Ella. We'll move back this way.
Sure, so I think as we define business value, you can think of it in use cases. So for instance, like one, do you have players that don't trust each other but need to work together? Do you have middlemen that don't really bring any value and can be eliminated? Do you need an immutable record? And do you also have like the wrong incentives, essentially? So I think in the supply chain industry, we see all of these, and we've actually had a lot of eager interest because of the protocol that we're building. So we will be running trials now in the coming months in Sierra Leone and also in Zimbabwe. So yeah, follow us on those and see how they go. And
so who are your end clients? Who's paying for your technology?
Well, as I said, we're really trying to incentivize the mines. That is the goal. Because, I mean, a lot of people are focusing on building like private permission blockchains for the end manufacturers.
And the mines are, where are they based? They're based in Africa, or they're listed here?
A lot are based in Africa, obviously Australia. I mean, they're spread all around the world. You do have some minerals for, like, for instance, cobalt, where 60% is from Congo, but they are spread all over the world.
Great. Fabian?
Yeah, what brings value, basically applying a blockchain to an industry? I mean, I think we've seen that already with the public blockchains. It's mainly innovation. So we have seen a spur of innovation. We have seen a mass of interoperability. I think interoperability is one of the biggest benefits we have seen so far in blockchain. We see basically new things coming up, new ways of how you can interact and how you can monetize, or how you can fund projects, how you can incentivize your community. And a lot of these use cases involve a decentralized or a trustless middleman system, right? It's actually now a system. So you can automate processes where before you had to have people in place to make sure that neither side is cheating or trying to trick the system.
Right, so you mentioned public versus private. Can you explain to the audience what that means, and then tell us a little bit what you think about this sort of argument of public or private or hybrid chains?
Yeah, so the question is, and this is a question which comes really often, especially when you're in industry and you're looking, or any kind of company, and you're looking into using blockchain. The first question is, okay, does this work? Can we put it on the blockchain? Most of the time, your R&D team figures that out. You know, they make some smart contracts, mostly on Ethereum, or play a little bit around with Hyperledger internally, and then they figure, okay, yeah, it does work. You know, we can do whatever we wanted to do, or what we wanted to try out. The next step is to ask, okay, where do we put this now on the blockchain? Ethereum would be the ideal candidate because it's the most secure and it's the biggest network, but Ethereum also is, because it's so attractive, completely full right now. So running anything in production at a larger scale is probably not an option. So then people or companies think about, let's do a private chain. And this is where it becomes tricky, because the difference between a public chain and a private chain is huge, because the one is basically publicly verifiable. This means I can trust it because I can know it runs correctly. And the other is basically nothing else than a database or a web server we have today, where there's an API layer in front and it gives me certain data, or doesn't. It's a black box. So when you are interacting in a public setting with a lot of people who don't necessarily trust each other, a public chain is the absolute must, because otherwise you don't create any trust between all of these independent parties. If you want to improve your internal logistics, because even in a big corporation you have a lot of departments, there's also a lot of asymmetries and asynchronicities inside companies. If you want to streamline that inside a company, a private chain might be a good thing, or maybe even a chain between only a few certain parties. But if you're interacting with the public, if you're interacting with your customer, a public chain is the only real way to go. There often comes the question of privacy, obviously, as the current technology allows only obfuscation, only pseudonymity, and not full privacy. We have developments in the direction of zero-knowledge proofs, and Zcash is one of the first one to put this on the blockchain. This technology will be available, so we will have in the future very secure, public and totally anonymous blockchain technology systems. But that's still time to go, because zero-knowledge proofs requires a lot of computation to generate the proofs, and are rather large. So right now, not the optimal use case for a blockchain, especially when we're talking about smart contracts, which is the basis for all of these explosion of innovation, where anybody can program whatever he wants on the blockchain. So yeah, it still will take time before we have the full privacy. So right now it's about obfuscation on the public chain.
Right. Alex, so are you doing pilots outside of France? And tell us a little bit more how you're driving adoption to the universities. And how do you see blockchain usage today in France?
What's interesting to consider is that BCDiploma doesn't create a new service. We help school to solve some existing problematics that exist for years. I could say, for instance, the fake diplomas market that increase year after years, and that bother schools because they need more and more to control their brand image. Another topic for schools is the obligation to conserve degrees over a very long period. In France, schools have to conserve degrees during 50 years minimum. And schools also must allocate resources to answer recruiters' request to check if a candidate really obtained his degree. So I say that to explain that existing solution without blockchain works correctly and do the job for years now. We had the idea to create BCDiploma past year because we deeply think that blockchain technology will bring a better service for schools and for other actors of this little
And can I ask you,
ecosystem.
he mentioned cost of transactions, and last year around Christmas it became a big deal. How do your universities feel that if the price of Ethereum goes too much, it might cost them more than €5 to do a transaction?
It's a concern for schools. It's a major concern also for us, of course. So what we found as a solution is that in the open source framework BCDiploma is based on, we developed an open source framework. And the blockchain we use to write data and to conserve data on blockchain is just a parameter, meaning that tomorrow, if we need to move on another blockchain, public or private, we can perfectly do that without having to recode the whole framework.
Great, thank you.
So the only constraint is that the blockchain needs to support smart contracts.
Okay,
technology.
so you can move between blockchains. So Ella, just quickly, sort of move the thing forward. So you said that We talked earlier on the phone, and you said you have lots of challenges and there's consumer adoption. Can you talk a little bit about the challenges you're seeing in the blockchain space?
Sure. So I think, understandably, a lot of the conversation has been around development, and that was very necessary, and we made a lot of incredible progress in that field, but it has been a bit esoteric at times, perhaps. It's kind of like the internet in the 90s, where we were coding very cool stuff, but no one was really building interfaces to use it yet. So I think for us, it's the next level has to be adoption, and for that it's more UX UI design and creating these interfaces that we can really use to encourage mass adoption. Obviously I focus on marketing, and in that regard I think we really need to improve legitimacy. We kind of gave ourselves a bad image last year, and we focused a lot on vanity measures, on how many people were in your Telegram group, and not enough on really providing value for that.
And how did you deal with, there was crypto bans, so, Google stopped advertising and Facebook and Twitter. How did you deal with that?
I think this definitely makes it very tough to reach people at scale. So obviously, we're more of a B2B startup in general, so we focus more on really high quality content that communicates value. And we also focus more on meetups and events, and we held our first conference last week.
But as a marketer, do you have any advice for anyone in the room who's trying to do crypto marketing?
Sure. I think just think out of the box. So there's a lot of platforms popping up, a lot of interesting places where you can look to communicate with people. Provide real value, research things, help people to learn, help them to understand how to apply it to their industry.
Right, and I understand you have a site for learning. Vous m'avez dit que vous avez créé un site pour apprendre le blockchain ou quelque chose comme ça?
No. We talked about that yesterday. If some of you want to learn blockchain from the very beginning, we are currently incubated at Station F in a program called Chain Accelerator. It groups about 12 startups working on blockchain technology. And we recently co-wrote an interesting article explaining blockchain to your grandparents. So you can find this article on a Station F Medium webpage. It's funny and really interesting.
Great. Fabian, the one question for you is, do you think, and you brought this up on our call, industry specific, so we have Bitcoin, which is for general payments or store of value, Ethereum for smart contracts, and do you think how will blockchains go in the future? Do you think there will be industry-specific or country-specific blockchains, or how do you see the future of blockchains in general?
Yeah, I actually had this already 3 years on my slides. I had like this slide which said Internet of Blockchains, and I do think this would be the next step in the next few years. We already have, 3,000 blockchains, right? So we already had 1,000 altcoins on Bitcoin, and now we're having 20 whatever altcoins on Ethereum, you could say, right? Which copy the smart contract blockchain model. And we will see many more blockchains. My thesis is that in the next years it will go more towards a context-specific blockchain, how I call that, meaning industry-specific or special-purpose blockchains. And this is for the reason to group people's interest, which have already the same interest or the same customers around their own network, which then they have a value measure in the network, and they have the resources available only for that specific peer group. And that's a great way to learn blockchain. It's a great way to experiment. It's a great way to have actually real-world use cases already possible today, because blockchains do scale pretty good. They don't scale perfect for the whole world, but they do scale pretty good with like 1 million, 4 million transactions per day. That's not too little. You can do a lot with those things. We see now a trend of the layer 2 applications. It's basically of how I use the blockchain as a secure mechanism, but have all my interactions outside. The key really is literally the key, the private key, and public-private key cryptography is really what helps us interact. It's a wonder that we don't have that already since 30 years, because it exists in 30 years, or 40 years even, and 50. It's just now coming to become the standard. And for example, what we see with Ledger and so on, hardware wallets will become the standard. You will have your keys on many devices. You will have them on many phones. And it will be not so much anymore about the one single key. It will be more that one single key is just one access to your, for example, blockchain identity system, or for your
how I mean, we're going to need
wallets.
We'll need to have a dozen ledgers, because I think I can only keep 10 tokens on my ledger or something like that. So you're saying we're going to have like dozens of tokens, and how do I keep track of them all? What do you see in the future of that?
So you will keep track of them using applications, obviously, and these applications will know to which network to connect. Basically, you will have your assets, and some will sit on Ethereum, and some will sit on Tezos, and some will sit on Lukso, and some will sit wherever they will sit. Your wallet will basically know where to connect and which smart contracts to read to read your token balances. It's not only about tokens, it's also, like I said, it's about identity. I proposed that ERC 725 identity standard. There's now an alliance forming around that standard where if this would be adopted, you have basically a universal login, plus you have a universal public profile, which you can have many websites where you can edit and view that. People can issue claims about one another in a public manner. That already allows a lot of new use cases being possible. I mean, for example, certificates from universities is just one, right? Claim you can have on your identity, and then, or your work relationship, where did you work before, and so on. That's exactly what you probably want to show public, because you worked for it a long time.
So that segues right to my next question about regulatory. So we're in France. The regulatory system here is changing. It's becoming more open. Alex, what do you see happening?
I see that things are moving forward. We have positive signals coming days after days. But I have to say that today, for a 100% French company trying to work with cryptocurrencies and blockchain, it's super complicated. We created our company in October 2017. Our company is named Blockchain Certified Data. We opened a bank account in a major French bank, and 2 days after, because we have the word blockchain in our name, our account has been closed. So today it's absolutely impossible to create a French bank account with a blockchain company. Regarding regulation, I would say that we face main problems.
Did you get a new account? I hope.
We find a solution, but
okay.
Unfortunately abroad.
Okay.
We'd like to stay 100% in France. Regarding taxation system, regarding fiscality, we miss clear guidelines. So this topic has been discussed before, previously this morning, but we really need to move forward regarding regulation, guidelines, and clarity of what we can do regarding taxation. And I would also add that we had 1,000 and 1,000 euros freezed by the administration regarding VAT to recover. And we don't know why. We asked the administration why we can't recover this 1,000 of euros. And up to now, and this is a long-term story, we don't have any answer. So it causes some cash flow problems, and it's a pain, and we are sad about this situation. But okay, we are optimistical, and we hope that things will move forward.
It's the same thing that we found in France, especially as a foreigner. The system here is becoming more open, but it's not the fastest moving place. And my fear is things will move to Malta or move to Lithuania or move elsewhere, because it's quite easy to move within the European Union.
Of course, it's super easy, but we really try to stay in France. And we had some interesting announcements recently regarding government and politicians. So let's wait that now we have some acts.
Okay, well, thank you very much.
Well, you done? Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.